to Bubbles and Brisket 2022.
That's right. It's the second annual Bubbles and Brisket, brought to you by the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast, coming to you at Smoky Hollow in downtown Raleigh.
This year we have 11 Q chefs doing their take on brisket and 21 different sparkling wines and champagne.
And not to mention that, we're also doing beer by Crafton. Hey!
Yeah.
And non-alcoholic beverages from Devil's Foot Beverage and Orangina.
Plus, we have desserts from Bestow Baked Goods and Bold Batch Creamery.
Our friend Sam Suchoff of Lady Edison Ham's just going to be slicing delicious ham, because why not?
Hey, wait, do I have to pay for everything separately?
No, it's all inclusive, Matt. You get one ticket, one price, all the fun by just going to our website, ncfbpodcast.com. So act now to get your tickets. Brought to you by the NCFB and U.S. Foods,
Triangle Wine Company,
Raleigh Magazine,
Food Scene,
and Devil's Foot Beverage Company.
Bubbles and Brisket on June 4th from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m.
This is the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. Thank you for listening, subscribing, and hitting subscribe on your friend's phone without them knowing. Coming to you from the Kitchen Studios in downtown Raleigh. This episode is sponsored in part by Spot On, tech that helps your business grow. Request a demo at spoton.com. And Joe Van Gogh Coffee, serving the community from seed to cup, taking particular care at every step to honor the bean. And now, riding the tides of their own waistlines, it's Max Trujillo and Matthew Weiss.
Hello, and thank you for listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. I am your co-host, Max Trujillo.
And I am your co-host, Matthew Weiss, and I am salty today.
Yep.
And the reason I am salty is because the owners and creators of Non's Pinching Salts are here today in studio and with us to tell us all about it. The secret behind the salt is Christina Mirando Stewart and Alan Stewart. Welcome.
Thanks so much.
It's not by accident you have the same last name, right?
No.
You're married.
Yes.
Okay, we're establishing that off the top.
14 years today.
Today is your anniversary.
Yep.
Wow, what a way to celebrate.
Wow.
Indeed.
That's awesome. Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah, when you put out the date, I was like, heck yeah.
She's
It's
like,
going to
"That
be a
sounds
good day
familiar."
anyway, so might as well do a podcast.
I was
Yeah.
wondering, you guys seemed a little drunk when you walked in, so that explains it
Yeah.
all. That's perfect. Yeah, my anniversary with Felicia is this Saturday.
That's
so
right. A lot
that's
of May
cool, too.
weddings.
Yeah, it's a good time to get married.
You know, you did something very smart last week, which I encourage all of our guests to do. Actually, it's going to be a necessary if you're going to be on our show. We must sample the goods. You know,
Yeah.
We must know what your product's about. And you were kind enough to drop us some of your salts last week, and Max and I had the chance to play with them a little bit. Max, you did some hot dogs with the salts.
I did a few things. So we've got pinching salts that you dropped off. I believe you gave us 3 different types. I want to, just so I'm aware. Yeah, you gave us the garden garlic. You gave us
Original.
the original, and then
I had the habanero.
Tenebroso.
Tenebroso.
Yeah.
Tenebroso,
Tenebroso.
which has got like a little bit of ghost pepper in that, I think. We'll get into those particular things soon, like an Italian style. But yeah, I brought them home. Both of my daughters are obsessed with salt. I don't know. Kids just love salt. Have your boys gotten into salt yet?
Not as much as I do, because I love cooking with lots of salt. And
Charlotte
my
will
wife
just
is always
eat.
complaining, there's too much salt in there, too much salt in there.
They're fine. Salt's
Yeah,
good for you.
we get, when I do like pop-up markets or anything with a sample or any of that, kids flock to it, and sometimes it's the reason their parents buy the salt.
Right.
Because
Hey.
they're like, this is, I need this.
Yeah,
and then they
make
want
the kid eat it.
Right.
salt stash. They want, because we have like little salt stashes that you can put on your key ring, and they have to have one of those because
Yeah.
it's cool.
I love it. So between the two that I had, the original and the garden garlic, because Matt just went in and said, I'm taking this one. And I went, what? Yeah. And so, we made some chicken. I threw the original blend on the chicken, both to just a season on the raw chicken, and just did it with rice and some asparagus. Real simple. But then at the end, I finished with a little bit of the garden garlic to be like the pinching salt, finishing salt. And then last night, just silly enough, we wanted hot dogs. This is the best part. This is how you know you're in a good relationship with your wife. My daughters and I text Felicia, who was we thought was at the grocery store, but she had already left. We said, before you leave, will you get hot dogs? We're jonesing for hot dogs. And she's like, I've already left. I'm like, oh. And when she got home, she's like, all right, who wants to come with me? We're going back to the store to get hot dogs.
I love
Are you
that.
serious? So she and Alexander got back in the car, went just to get some hot dogs, and came back.
That is...
So I went all out. I sliced up a bunch of gherkins and some onions and little tomato and dressed up those hot dogs, toasted with some cheddar cheese, kind of Chicagoan sort of style. But then at the end, we put some of the garden garlic salt on top, and I mean, they were, because I've done my hot dog before and it's really delicious, but this just kind of boom elevated it to that next flavor level, which that's where I'd like to start.
Yeah,
it's all about flavor, right?
It is indeed. That salt is packed with flavor for sure. That has roasted garlic, so we roast garlic and then we blend it with fresh garlic, kosher salt. All the salts are kosher salt based. Nani would make the original blend with just like non-iodized table salt. That's just what she did, and I made it like that for a little while, but that's not really a friendly salt cooking, and things like that. So we transitioned to the kosher salt and all the blends, so you can rub down your steaks, and not feel like you're going to over salt things necessarily. Anyway, the garden garlic is it smells really pungent. When you open it, you're like, whoa, and it's got a lot of flavor, but we found that when you're cooking with it and finishing with it, it balances itself out. So it's not overwhelming, as you might sometimes think, when you smell it, you're like, whoa, that's a lot of garlic, but it's great.
It enhances the dish as opposed to overwhelms it.
That's right. That's our goal.
So noni, nones. That's
Nani.
Nani. That's your grandmother. That's the Italian word for grandmother. Mm-hmm. And so she started just making these just because like she couldn't find anything out there else that she liked, or what was?
No, the recipe has been, as far as we can tell, in the family for about 4 generations. Wow. We're from northern Italy, outside of Florence, and she was given the recipe, and I can't quite remember how old I was when I started to realize that it was in the house and that my parents were cooking with it, and that she was making it. But I would say probably 8 or 9, when I started to really be interested in that a little bit. Yeah. And she'd grow the herbs. I fully remember her growing herbs, in her sun porch and on her back porch. We're from Western New York, Western Pennsylvania. So, you can't grow all year round any of that. But, she'd just make it a couple times a year, whenever she could harvest the ingredients, and probably whenever she just felt like it.
Right.
And even from your website too, like you've gone into it to say that like that was like in a way it was kind of a connector for your family, right? Like especially like when everybody was out, it was like the spring was like it was springtime. Like oh, time for more.
Yeah, indeed. We'd get a decent size like canning jar full of it, and that's just that's what we cooked with. That's all I really knew. It was by the stove, and that's what we used. No matter what. And you're right, it would start to get rationed out a little bit as the jar got lower. But, I don't really remember ever actually being without it very much. I do remember like when you making it. Like we need more. So, and then my friends, everybody that would come to the house because we cooked a lot. And they were all like, I want some of this. Can I get some of this? And no, basically, she's not making enough for you.
So take us behind the scenes. How does it transition into something that your grandmother was making and there was just like a great thing that was always a part of the table? Cut to fast forward, you're in North Carolina and now made this into a business.
Well, I actually, when I was about 18, when I graduated high school, she gave me the recipe.
Did you have to fight for it? Did you have to go through like a
more her
walk over fire coals, or? Like
finding it, because after she had it written, but she'd made it so much that
she's not reading the recipe for herself.
So coming up with like actual measurements or some type of measurement took a while, but she was actually pretty cool about it. And Nani was a very spicy lady, but as most Italian mothers, grandmothers can be. But no, she was really cool about it. And my dad's an entrepreneur by heart. It's in our whole family on his side. And I was like, I want to make this salt, and I want to do something with this, And so we went to the the fancy food show in New York, and we researched it. Life things happened, and so we just didn't move forward. And then fast forward, lived in Florida for a long time. Our daughter graduated high school, decided to go to Jacksonville, and Alan's from Kinston.
Okay.
So that's how, we came to North Carolina, Raleigh, Kinston, at least once a year to visit his family and friends. And when we moved here, I was like, I need something to do. Zoe's gone. I was kind of bummed, to be honest with you.
Oh, so this is an empty nester project.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Totally. And I was telling some friends about it. And
had you still, you carried on your grandmother's tradition or Noni's tradition by making it year after year still in the
I would still make it. I would still definitely make it yearly. We'd give it maybe for the holidays or just have some around. And then I told some friends that I had met here when we moved here, and I was telling them about it, and they're like, oh man, can I get some of that sure. Yeah. And a lot of encouragement from my husband, my daughter, and friends, with, give it a go. So. And
then, so you mentioned that Alan here is the science behind it. He figured out and tinkered and realized, I guess, how to do it maybe to scale.
Yeah. Totally. Absolutely. I mean, he does all the brand, the labeling and all that good stuff. Got all of that on our feet.
And we should just mention that you can't see him. You'll see him in the pictures. But Alan came in wearing a Stanberry T-shirt, so he's validated in our eyes immediately in the culinary world.
Stanberry shirt. Yeah.
See you tonight, Stanberry.
Oh, anniversary. Yeah. Perfect.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Except for Stanberry hasn't been on the podcast. I'm calling you out, Stanberry. They were on the calendar.
They're mic shy. They're microphone
They got
shy.
a little nervous. We might have to bring the mics
get
to
Sydney
them.
in here. I mean,
oh yeah,
well,
Sydney's good.
Yeah, but she didn't want to come on by herself. So
yeah, they're very timid over there.
Yeah,
outside of the kitchen.
That's right.
Outside of Stanberry. I mean, literally. I mean, Matt and I was probably like our mutual favorite restaurant. Not to like put anybody else out or whatever, but mutually, when Matt and I go out, we're like, where do we want to go? We want to go to Stanberry.
Stanberry.
Yeah,
it's pretty simple.
Yeah, it's an awesome spot.
Yeah.
So, but the thing I like is recently we've been interviewing a lot of chefs. We've been talking about their the way they've kind of come up and who they studied from and what they've done. The nice quaintness of this, and take this in the spirit that is intended, is you're not a professional chef. You didn't study under Daniel Boulud or Wolfgang Puck or whatever. You had Nana, and you probably are a pretty good home cook, I would assume.
I think so. I've definitely...
Alan?
She is. Yeah, we both are.
Yeah, she can't say it. You have to say it.
We both really enjoy the kitchen in general, and more over the years. I think you'll probably agree, Alan, in making these salts, different blends outside of Non's original, it's taught us a whole bunch about cooking. And no, we never claim to be, chefs or trying to school anybody. We just know that how to season our food.
But the nice part about it is like, not only are these chefs that go to school and all that, the ones that know how to make good food. Anybody, if they kind of understand balance and flavor and how to salt their food properly, can make really good food. And so it's relatable in the sense that too, like to the listeners, like. So everybody sitting at home probably has that one thing that like either grandma made or grandpa made or your dad, your mom, your sister, your brother, somebody makes that's like, oh, it's so damn good, and if only, we've had Anthony Scalabrino of Oak City Amaretto, and he effectively, story not too different from yourselves, that was his grandmother's amaretto recipe that he brought back to life, and now it makes delicious amaretto for everybody to try. But there's a nice thing, I don't know, it gets me thinking, like, Matt, is there a Weiss recipe or thing within, does Sarah know how to do a certain thing, or is it one of the you're laughing, come on, man. Sarah, the kitchen's this way, it's over here to the right, that big thing with the hot box in it, yeah, that's the kitchen. No, but is there something in the Weiss household that like you could maybe market and bring to market?
I don't know about bring to market, but there's a couple of dishes that, reminds you of home. Like my mom makes a really delicious baked ziti, or the roasted brisket that she did, which both I think you came to, and we had a New Year's party.
Yeah.
It was pretty delicious. Yeah.
I would. Mine is actually Jen Rice wrote the local, well, not local, internationally renowned food writer Jen Rice asked about Super Bowl treats and things to do for a Super Bowl, and my mom's sauerkraut dip is the best thing ever.
Wow.
It's like...
I thought it was the fried noodle dish that she would make, or the pan noodle dish.
I've always got new things, Matt. There's always new stuff.
But you just, it's always the next best thing.
Bottomless pit of anecdotal stories. But no, my mom makes this sauerkraut dip. It's real simply, I mean, there's more to it, but it's basically like just making ranch and sauerkraut, and then you put paprika in there as well. And you just mix it around, and you're like, whoa, this pickled thing with this creamy thing, but you put it in... Eat it with corn chips or eat it with a crudité. It is phenomenal. And at first you're like, I don't know. But as soon as you try it, you realize.
It sounds awesome.
I'd be on
ranch,
that. Yeah.
sauerkraut, and paprika.
Yeah.
The cure-all.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So, but...
What salt? What non-salt would
Probably
elevate that?
Probably Tenebroso.
Tenebroso, yeah.
Well, let's talk about that. So Tenebroso is the salt that Matt brought home with him. First, what does that mean? What is Tenebroso?
It's an Italian word. Familiar with it from painting. Caravaggio's painting style, smoky and mysterious. Light coming out of darkness.
Yeah.
Light.
So because of that, then it leads to what's the flavor profile of the Tenebroso?
It really is just a blend of smoked and fresh peppers, and they've all been de-seeded and de-pithed, so the heat really comes from the long pepper, the uziza, and a little bit of black pepper. So it's a really complex black pepper to carry you through the heat.
Yeah.
But you get that initial endorphin from, getting that bite of the Carolina Reaper.
Yeah. Yeah, I had it on just like my lunch that I always put. I typically will put a hot sauce on, and I was like, oh, let me try I have the finishing salt, and it did that. It did like the heat didn't really overwhelm me. I like heat, but it was the smokiness added just like this nice complexity to the dish that was really delicious.
Do you two, because you're salt enthusiasts, find that you need to ask for salt at a restaurant for your dishes? Like, do you ever do that? Matt and I were at a place one time recently where we had a dish and it was fine. It was expertly made, but I think someone forgot to put enough salt in there to give it the true expression. But you're like, I don't want to ask.
Yeah, it can
the
be
chef
rude
for some salt right now. It used to be totally standard, and salt used to be
I know.
never on the table. Yeah,
not on the table anymore. It's like, well, shit,
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So but do you get to kind of walk in with like a heavy hammer attitude? You're like, I'm a salt person.
No.
Give me the salt.
No.
No, but we have some on our keychain.
Yeah.
Now that is life hack.
Yeah,
that's what we need, a salt keychain.
Hilarious. I hope it's not clear, because I would assume some cops might think it's something else.
It's definitely a conversation starter. When people see it, they're like, oh, and then they'll giggle and, back in the 80s or whatever, And,
yeah, that would have been used for something else.
Yeah. But no, salt stashes are cool. They're fun, and people love them. And that's,
That sounds awesome. I want to get to the pivotal moment of when you're like, okay, we can bring this to market. But before we do that, I want to talk about something that helps you bring business to market, especially if you're a business owner of a restaurant or a forward-facing retail, and that is Spot On. And Spot On helps you with all sorts of technology, whether it's you need your recipes for salt, put into your POS system, or in your cocktail program where they're pulling the right amount of ounces so that you can understand your costing and profit and loss and the whole thing. And Spot On can create it where all your systems speak to each other. They can do it from an app from your phone or however you like to check your systems. And Spot On is a great friend of our show, and they have a local person that you can talk to, and her name is Tanya Manibo, and you can call her directly at 858-213-7820, or you can email Tanya at Tanya M, that's TANYAM, @spoton.com.
Yeah, and before we get back into this salty conversation, I want to take a break, a little coffee break for all of us to talk about Joe Van Gogh and specifically their Catia Duke San Isidro Honduras blend. Joe Van Gogh themselves were inspired by what Catia Duke and the Magical Women of San Isidro created by carefully roasting this coffee that has been able to highlight the exceptional qualities from the area. You'll find flavors like Asian pear, creamy nougat, and floral wildflower in each cup. So try a bag wherever you get your Joe Van Gogh coffee. Go to joevango.com to learn more or hit the link in our show notes. How does salt work with coffee? I don't know if I've ever thought of blending.
I know salted caramel is a thing, obviously.
Yeah,
but
I don't know. Like,
salted
has salt
coffee.
and coffee ever been like utilized together directly?
Well, something I don't think we brought you was the coffee rub. We work with Pine State to make a coffee rub.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, it needs a little brown sugar in it to really get the flavors going.
And the application for that would be your steaks, mostly, or
I would say more like roasts.
Okay.
Things on the cookout. It's pretty tasty stuff.
yeah.
Yeah,
I like it on
it's got
fries and chicken wings.
Okay.
Sounds awesome.
But I like that sort of sweet and savory. It's got a little heat to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I was told way back in the day, I'm sorry, Matt. I was told way back in the day when I was working at Standard Foods and Chef Eric Montagny, who is a brilliant mind, and Will Cisa, who's now, I believe, in like Asheville or so. The two of them together were these brilliant culinary geniuses. I'll go that far because listening to what they'd say just always blew me away. Like the pre-shifts we'd have were like over the top and so educated, but they would always talk about salt and like the salt content of the dish and why they did what they did because of it. And Eric's like through line for a lot of it was like, remember, salt isn't to make things salty. Salt is to bring the flavor out of its own item. Like it's to represent the flavor that is there. So
Right.
I don't know, get like into the geekiness of like the salt and what it does and how that kind of fits in there, right? Like you're not trying to necessarily taste salt, but what does that mean?
Well, I think in terms of even the original, and once we started making it and got our head around it, like you're not using dried ingredients, so it's drawing the moisture out of the herbs.
Yeah.
But the oils are preserved. So instead of them drying out and being damaged, they're kind of preserved and they're coating that salt. And it you can really tell the difference when you're using the non-salts versus like a dried spice blend.
Yeah. Yeah, because the salt with the herbs is effectively making the herbs more activated.
It's keeping them the oils from the herb fresher, which is usually where your flavor is coming from.
Yeah, because if oil is kept too long, it can kind of sour, right?
It dries out.
Or dries out.
Everything has
Yeah.
moisture in it.
And salt is an excellent preserver.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah, rather than preserving, if you're preserving a lemon, like preserved lemon or even just meats and all that, when you're salting and curing them to turn them into salami or prosciutto or so, like you're using salt. So in the same regard, you're using it with herbs.
Yeah, and
Makes all the sense in
You
the
have
world.
to assume that 4 generations ago they were doing this to preserve their fresh herb harvest.
Right.
You know, so they were doing this originally just to keep the food longer.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, it tastes good. Let's put it on the food. How did you, what's your background? You said you're the science and the marketing part of this, but
I'm an artist.
okay.
So
Got
I,
it.
I
Thus
paint, I've done graphic design, I've done a lot of those things. So I kind of had that to bring to the table when we were first bringing it to market. But it was really interesting to just kind of dive into the flavors and how the original worked and finding some new combinations.
And did you, when you came to, it sounds to me like you guys, I know it's your anniversary today. What number anniversary, by the way?
14.
14.
Yeah.
Oh. But were you guys together back in Western Pennsylvania? No. Okay. So you met and then came to North
We met
Carolina
in Florida.
together? I see.
Yeah, we met in South Florida. Alan was there working.
As what?
As a good artist should, right? That seems like a very artsy spot to be.
Well, I thought it would be a great idea to take a regular job and try to pay off my student loans. So I went to manage an art supply store.
This was
oh, nice.
18 years ago, or something. So,
Right. Okay.
but yeah, we met having a beer in Deerfield Beach, and it just went from there. And we started visiting Raleigh and getting, I loved it here. It was definitely.
Yeah. And you had family here. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
And-
Raleigh's always been home, but I wasn't coming back without her.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Oh.
There you go. And so you had a daughter.
Yeah.
Daughter goes off to school.
Yeah.
You've been making these salts all the time. And your friends are like, oh, can I get a jar here? Can I get a jar here? And then at some point, do you say to them, well, would you pay for it?
Yeah, that's gonna be $11.99.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, basically it was like, well, maybe we should like start making this in some type of quantity, and get it out there and see what people think. Our first little we were just having a memory about this. Our first little pop-up to introduce Nons
Yeah, William and Company.
was at William and Company.
Oh, yeah.
Lily and Carrie at the time helped us, get it set up. And
For those that don't know, that's like a really cool little bar that shares the wall with Crawford and Son right there in the
Person Street area.
Person Street area, Oakwood area of downtown Raleigh.
yep, love that place. So
Yeah, that's fun.
And okay, so yeah, you think
and the feedback was really great. And so then I learned about a couple pop-ups, like Trophy and stuff. And I was like, oh, I wonder if I could get into that. I did. And it just kind of took off from there.
did you have other jobs do you have other jobs still?
Yeah.
Okay.
What is it that you do? No.
Yeah, I have a day job.
We don't have to be ashamed. Max and I have day jobs.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. We haven't heard what it is. There are many jobs to
Yeah.
be ashamed of.
I guess so.
Let's think about them. Let's see. Your job and no.
Yeah, I work in a regulatory department for a healthcare company.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
an
not
accreditation
ashamed,
company.
but,
Yeah.
but it doesn't sound as fun as
It's definitely not.
sticking your hands in
Sometimes I'm
salt.
like, how did I get here? But I think I do a good job. I'm still there. So
They keep you around.
yeah, but this is what makes me happy. This is what
Yeah.
keeps it okay to be there because I know I have this.
I mean, this is a common story on our show, and it's funny at what walks of life the people are in. Like Bites of Sam when she was transitioning out of a very corporate job and started making her cookies, and now she's fully doing it and like busy as all get out.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And then some people right on the cusp. Oh, we're about to leave. We're just about to take the jump. So
Yeah.
it's fun to hear. How long have you been doing it for? The salts, like on a professional level, where you selling them?
Over 5 years.
Okay.
So over 5 years. I mean,
So we're about the same age, our
okay.
businesses.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I definitely would love to transition over at some point. That's the goal. It's just, I don't know, just getting everything lined up to make sense, for
Yeah.
that.
And right now, are you just selling at markets and stuff, or are you present in?
We're in the butcher's market.
Great friend of the show will be present at this year's Bubbles and Brisket.
Ooh.
That's right. They will be.
Nice.
Yeah. More information coming up soon. But
Yeah, and then several retailers. I mean, Rebus Works, Curate, Next Door.
Oh, yeah.
They're great. Alan helped me.
Pine State Coffee.
Pine State Coffee.
You're stopping by there in the mornings.
I don't want.
But yeah, opening up
Okay.
a consumer packaged good, a CPG, is not like the easiest thing to just kind of get off the ground. You got to have some brand loyalty, some return guests,
Most definitely.
Yeah, and then you got to get the word out. You got to get on the NCF&B podcast. That helps out.
Yep.
Couldn't wait. But
You got to find someone that'll make it the way you make it, which is not easy.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, in the production, I assume have you done like regulatory things with kitchens and all at your house? I don't know. Are you doing commissary or?
Yeah, at Fiction Kitchen.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so we use their kitchen. We're able to make a large amount of product.
Sure.
In an evening, several hours or more, but we're able to pump
Right.
it out pretty good. We got the systems down nice. So that's been great. Yes, we've definitely looked at, getting it into restaurant, grocery stores, pardon me, and having someone package it and produce it for us. It's just, we're just, we're still trying to figure out if that's,
Yeah, we're just getting started with all that.
yeah.
Yeah,
Having
that's
it made
cool,
the
though.
same way.
It's funny. One of the most recent guests we've had on the show, like literally recent, because he was sitting in that chair about 45 minutes ago. Chef Kevin Ruiz and other former guests of the show, Bobby McFarland, go into a real big salt debate. Have you ever seen this online? These two, they go at it about the difference between what is it, Diamond
Crystal.
Crystal, or Mortons. Like which is the one? So talking to salt people here, help us in that debate. Where do you go?
I think the Diamond Crystal, it's something about that flaky shape. It lets a lot of those other flavors come through for our purposes. And I
That's
think
what we use.
the Mortons,
Oh.
it tends to be like a larger cube of salt, and you get a bigger hit of salt before anything else.
I can't remember who sided on each one, but one of them, whoever liked the Diamond Crystal, is like shouting, to the heavens right now that they won.
See?
Yeah, so it was either Kevin or Bobby. This is the least gratifying and satisfying result of that conversation.
Well, now people who are listening can go Google it. Or we'll put it in the show notes to see.
Well, we like them both, but for our purposes, it was really about having those other flavors come through without things being too salty. So we
Right.
kind of landed on Diamond Crystal.
I have to say I appreciate that feedback because I have Mortons in the house, and whenever I cook with it, my wife always complains that stuff is too salty. And I think you're right. It's because of that bigger flake. I love the flavor of it, but maybe if I tried using Diamond Crystal, not a sponsor of our podcast, but could be.
Then she would just complain about something different. Just keeping it real over here. No, just being silly. Sarah, I
Sarah.
love you. We were laughing.
She has a
we-
great palate.
Yeah, no, we were laughing because Sarah and I rarely ever have alone time. Like she and I never really talk one-on-one. And while we were hanging out this weekend at High Hampton, whether that episode has already come out or not, you'll eventually know. We were like walking to the car to get something, and I go, Sarah, you and I never talk. And she's like, yeah. I'm like, it reminds me of that Seinfeld episode when Elaine and Costanza were supposed to go to a movie with Jerry, and then he had to back out, and they were like, well, are you just don't want to go to the movie? It's okay, so just you and me? It's like, yeah. It's like, what do we talk about? and then we resulted on what they resulted on in the podcast, or on Seinfeld, was they just made fun of Jerry, and that's how they became friends. So instead, we just made fun of Matt.
Yeah.
We were just
Perfect.
laughing at you. So that was great. That's how Sarah and I connect.
It was a good connection.
Yeah. Anyways.
And how much Morton salt is too much for her.
Yeah, she couldn't stop talking about Morton's this, Morton's that.
But now I'm going to use Nons.
Yeah.
Of course.
So let's get into application. If you're using this salt, what is the best way to use it? It's a pinching salt, right? So that then implies how you would kind of give a usage. But tell us the way we could use this salt.
Well, it's a pinching salt because you're not going to shake it on for a couple of more than one reason.
Yeah, the moisture content, it gets kind of clumpy. So
So you're going to want
it on your fingers.
Plus, it's fun to get your fingers in the salt and season while you're cooking or finish with it. It's definitely not just a finishing salt. That's something at markets and things that I go into detail with. A new customer. You can cook with it and you can finish with it. It's salt, so so just season where it makes sense. I would say the salts, you end up using maybe just a little bit less in some cases because it is infused, it's got a ton of flavor. So even folks that can't have a lot of salt enjoy this because they don't need a lot to actually get it to do something.
Most definitely, yeah. A little goes a real long way.
It does.
And particularly the Tenebroso and the garden garlic, that has an oil content to it, so it's an oil salt. And that makes it perfect for cooking. And, again, also for finishing, it just kind of melts into whatever fat you're cooking with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, it really is like an evolution. It's nice to have a properly stocked pantry, certain oils and and whatever, but having a really good salt to finish right there, it just makes your food so much better.
What I'll say is there are a lot of great seasonings out there, seasoning salts for sure. The difference here is we're using fresh ingredients. When you go to a really big scale, it becomes harder to do that. It just does. It becomes harder to produce that.
To buy produce,
Yeah, to buy it, to even get someone to produce it for you and co-pack it and all that. It's not that simple, So this is fresh ingredients blended with salt. The salt's taking care of everything, curing it. And then you're cooking with these fresh herbs and garlic and peppers in some cases. And, it takes out some of the work in the kitchen, just for every day, just trying to get, we all love to use additional fresh ingredients. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, but if you're cooking on a weeknight and you don't have a lot of time,
Yeah,
this just adds so much flavor.
Pierogies with Alfredo.
Yeah.
Do you specifically work with particular farms that we would know that for some of your herbs?
We work with a lot of different farms at the farmers market. When in season, we grow some of our herbs, when we can.
Yeah.
And, we utilize wards. Yeah, it just depends.
So what's the creative process like then? Is it based on seasonality and what you're working with, or do you have recipes now and an established flavors like the tenebroso, the garden garlic, and that we need to find that. We need to find the herbs that.
I think it's more of a kind of scratch our own itch thing. We start playing with a couple of flavors, like we sous vide about 5 pounds of black garlic last year, and we're still trying to figure out how to incorporate that into a nice recipe. But it took long enough just to figure out how to make the black garlic in sous vide.
Okay.
So we're usually just kind of playing in that direction, and then when we have something that's kind of close, then we start cooking with it, and we start sharing it with people.
Cool. And how many flavors is there now currently?
There are 5 flavors, original, all the time, pepper complex, garden garlic, and tenebroso. And then we do have the red eye coffee rub as well.
But that's only for Pine State? Or
Red Eye Revival. It's a coffee rub. We sell it to the markets, and they have it at the retailers.
But it's
as well.
we've partnered with Pine State too as far as the coffee.
Okay, and are all of them packaged like this in this 4-ounce container?
Except for the coffee rub. Coffee rub comes in a 6 ounce.
6 ounce. And so what would I pay for this on a retail shelf for this 4-ounce?
Non's original is 12.
Okay.
And it varies between 12 and 15.
Cool.
Tenebroso and the coffee rub are 15, and the Reaper pepper is very seasonal. Is not that fun to really work with.
Because you can't touch your eye
or anything,
like that,
or breathe, or like.
Change your gloves 3 times.
I'm sorry, are you using like dried or fresh Carolina Reapers when you get into it?
All fresh ingredients.
All fresh. And then we're just dehydrating? Is that what we're doing? What's that
They're
process?
preserved in the salt.
So it's fresh ingredients going into the salt, and then it's okay. I never thought of it that way. I thought maybe like you did have to dry them, but the salt itself is drying them.
No, we've worked with the NC State Food Lab to just make sure that our process is safe and secure. So they've made their procedure recommendations. But yeah, the salt does a great job of preserving everything.
Wow.
It pulls the moisture out to a certain degree, and then the fresh ingredient kind of pulls back in some of the salted liquid.
Is that the main difference, like your guys' differentiating factor between some major seasoned salts? Like I can think of Lowry's, right? Seasoned salts.
Schillings.
Yeah. That's the difference
That's
maker.
correct.
That is,
Yeah.
and we tend to exercise a little more control over the heat of the pepper by de-seeding and de-pithing.
Okay.
That makes a big difference. So you get
Sure.
a lot of the flavor.
Yeah.
And you can replace that heat with something a little bit more friendly. Kids prefer it.
Right. Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, that's like a cool edge. It's like, well, why would I buy this over something else? But yeah, it's all fresh ingredients. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Are you working? Have you gotten in with chefs yet? Have you spoken to anybody where they're like, all right, I like your stuff. Let's work in there.
We've played with it a little bit, but I think you find with chefs, they're in their kitchen and they have all of these things, and they really don't need this convenience,
right?
So we get lots of compliments and they'll use it at home, but you really won't find it on a lot of menus. We've had it on as a few cocktail rimmers.
Oh, okay.
Jam and Draft did something nice with it.
Yeah, Stanberry on their margaritas. They use tenebroso. And I actually do have something in the works with. I just can't really talk about it, but
come on, Christina, you can talk about it. We're here to talk about it.
No, I don't want to piss anybody off, but yeah, I am working with somebody restaurant wise here, so hopefully that'll.
Yeah,
nice.
I could see it, and this is meant as a compliment. Maybe the independent.
That was a good way to start it off.
Well, hear me out. The independent chef owner is going to be like, you know what? I can kind of make
probably
this
whip that
together.
up,
I can put stuff together. But maybe for more of like the quick service casual who has a bunch of locations and they need to reproduce that on a bigger scale, well, then they might want to use a salt like that.
Absolutely.
And we would be very interested in working with them.
Yeah. And there's so many avenues, as you know, there's so many avenues and opportunities. It's just
Yeah. But right
finding the time and
now, this
narrowing
is
it
great
down.
for the home
Yeah,
cook.
it
So
is.
What I found out while I was looking at your website, and you talked about it earlier, you do sell the salt, the little
Stash?
not cocaine holders, the salt stashes for the key ring, $5.
Yeah.
I
Not
need
a
to
bad
get one
way
of
to
those
go.
for sure.
I think that's a
Yeah.
cool idea. Yeah, you just keep it on you at all
Yeah,
times.
and that way you don't have to insult the chef.
Yeah,
You still
there you
have
go.
your
You're
salt.
just
Yeah.
secretly you're seasoning your own food
Yeah.
and nobody gets hurt.
Well, we'll have
No
to talk to the
feelings hurt
folks.
there.
Honestly, we'll have to talk to the folks at Weaver Street because this seems like a no-brainer for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Well, thank you for coming on. As you've already mentioned that you are available at certain local places, but more importantly, you just go to nonssalt.com. Is that right?
Yep. NONSSALTS. So there's 2 S's in
Yes.
the middle there.
You can
Yep.
check that out. We'll put a link in our show notes as well so that you can go pick it up yourself.
And right now, you can get the 20% off Nuns of Salt by using the promo code NCFB at checkout when you go to nonsalts.com. Woohoo!
Support local and support,
Yeah.
it's just kind of fun. It's like you guys took a passion, a family passion, and turned it into a business, and why not? And I love that, keeping your dad's entrepreneurial spirit alive by doing that. I really appreciate it. And it's a great product. So
Thank
yeah.
you.
you.
It's been fun. Raleigh has been a very giving city as far as starting a small business, at least in my experience. Got to be NC and, NC food, specialty food. They're awesome. I mean, the support is ridiculous. Shop local Raleigh, everybody.
Yeah.
It's just good. It's just good stuff. There's so much out there to help you through it.
Awesome. Well, Christina Allen, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being here.
Oh, thank you for having us.
And before you go, we are going to give you a somewhat local product. It's from over the border in South Carolina, but we're going to get you some proof alcohol ice cream.
Oh.
They have a salted caramel flavor.
They've done that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've
And,
done the salt with the caramel. That's delicious.
So
And then
they do. It's 7% of an alcohol in their ice cream, and it's like flavors like apple pie moonshine and coconut
caramel,
rum,
yeah.
bourbon caramel, all these great flavors. And so you can think differently about dessert, and maybe at some point work with them and get some salt in their
yeah.
alcohol and ice cream. It'd be great.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and you can get those
Yeah.
proof alcohol ice cream at your favorite wine shop, Triangle Wine Company, who has locations all over the Triangle. To be specific, out in Cary, Holly Springs, Southern Pines, in Bedford, North Raleigh, and go there for all of your fantastic wine, beer. They even do some specialty little snacks here and there. So who knows?
Yeah,
Maybe
who
we need
knows?
some salt over there at the old TWC. But they are also joining us at Bubbles and Brisket on June 4th from 2 to 6 in Smoky Hollow. You can get your tickets now. They are on sale on our website, which is ncfbpodcast.com, and you can check it out. We have we have links in our show notes on all of our social media. You're going to see fancy folks like Nick Danf, Jake Wood, Kyle Sutton, Matthew Register, Carrie Schleifer. I was on such a roll. and then
Jane Sampson, Corner Boys Barbecue, Brandon B. Nice Shepherd out there,
From the Emerald
Shepherd
Isle.
Barbecue from Emerald Isle.
Got Sam
Butcher's
Suchoff
Market,
doing
Sam Suchoff.
sliced Lady Edison ham.
Yeah.
Because why not? It had nothing to do with brisket, but it's awesome stuff. And he's like, "Can I be a part of this?" Yeah, heck yeah, man, get over here.
Yeah.
And then we're putting all of that with all this amazing bubbly, whether it's champagne or prosecco or cava, cremant,
Some new
whatever you-
things that you might not know about yet. You can be sure that, rest assured, that I have put together and Max have put together a wonderful selection of bubbly for you to taste with your brisket.
Yeah, it is a som-paired barbecue event.
Yep.
Got some beats playing. We've got desserts as well from Bestow Baked Goods and Bold Batch Creamery, once known as 12 Paws Ice Cream, former guest of the show.
There'll be beer from Crafton.
And beer from Crafton. I'm the worst at promoting my own stuff. There you go. Beer from my own food hall, Crafton.
That's from Bubbles and
There
Brisket.
we go. All right.
All
Thank
right,
you guys.
But so for now, everybody out there, go get yourself some Non's pinching salt and put it on your food. Or cook with it. You will eat very merrily.
Thanks for listening to the NC-F&B podcast. And if you've stuck with us this long, review us on iTunes and remember, 5 stars are encouraged.